100 chapters of MHA in 2 days. All I did this weekend was read MHA. Nothing else. This is my weekend. I have never read so fast in my life. I think I read faster on this than I did reading on the SATs. I had absolutely zero intention of reading My Hero Academia at all. In fact, I've really forgotten about it because it's really fallen out of the limelight. And everyone and their mother's talking about this ending, making memes about it, joking about it. Haha, he peaked in high school. Haha, he's flipping burgers. He's making my carne asada, putting fries in the bag, that sort of thing, right? And of course, this piqued my interest, right? Now that I know that it has a finite ending and that the story is concluded, and it's not like other mangas like Naruto or One Piece that, when you start reading them, then they just go on forever and they kind of have your soul at that point and you're not going to get it back and you're not going to get your time back either. So since it has an ending, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm going to try and read it for myself, because the absolute last thing that I ever like to do is judge a piece of media without witnessing it for myself. Basically just bandwagoning off what other people say. And this is a common problem that I see a lot on the internet. Some moron makes a fucking opinion, and then a bunch of other morons hear this opinion, think it's funny or whatever, start regurgitating said opinion, and then people who have no interest in the thing, aren't remotely related to whatever it is, just start regurgitating the opinion as well because they think it's funny also and want to bandwagon or fit in or whatever, right? So, of course, I got to catch up, and I just set aside this whole weekend, did absolutely fucking nothing else, but sit there and read My Hero Academia nonstop, panel by panel, did not skip a fucking word. And was it worth it? No, it was not. Absolutely not. But I did complete it. I did finish it. And I genuinely do not think that My Hero Academia and its ending got a fair shake. So a while ago, I was reading ahead of the anime, right? Around where Shigaraki was getting tentacle raped by the all for one power up hand job machine tentacle thing, and then they're all surrounding, all the superheroes are surrounding at the hospital, and they're like, oh no, we gotta stop Shigaraki from becoming God. And then it's fucking drags on for 20 or 30 chapters, and it's oh no, Shigaraki's God. And then Shigaraki comes out and he's like, I'm God. And then he goes, I'm gonna rape Midoriya. And then they're like, oh no, we gotta stop him from raping Midoriya. And then I just couldn't care. I just really couldn't give a shit. I had so much other shit to do at the time, so much other things to read, so many other things that I'd rather be doing. And from my perspective, it really just felt like it was just gonna become, another one of those shonen mangas where it's okay, this is just gonna go on forever. If I'm lucky, maybe he'll kill Shiggy Migi right here, and then, the next big bad, and this is just gonna go on for 1,000 chapters, and I'll never see an ending. But thankfully, I did see an ending. Thankfully, there was an ending. And so I had to start right from there, right where I left off, around I think it was fucking 280 or 260 or some chapter like that. And then all the way to 430, I think, is when the manga ends, right? After going in and sitting down and finishing all of the manga kind of in one sitting, to be honest, the ending, in my opinion, was not as bad as a lot of people were giving it on the internet and ragging on it. And while it's certainly not perfect, it's not fucking Shakespeare, it's not terrible, and it definitely I think aligns with the themes and what the author was kind of going for almost from the beginning, right? So from what I gather from a lot of people's critiques of the ending, and from what I understand that what some people want, I don't want to say what everybody wants, but what some people want, and what would be the easiest and simplest kind of ending, was to have Midoriya master One for All, give All for One and Shigaraki backshots, punch them really, really hard, and they go away forever, and then take All Might's place as, the top hero, symbol of peace, blah, 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 and sort of just become the next All Might, and be the greatest superhero ever, and be really cool and awesome, and everybody loves him, right? However, I feel like the issue with that ending, and why that didn't happen, is that ending completely undermines the whole point of the series, and the whole point that a lot of the villains were making throughout the series. One of the main themes that this story was trying to basically promote, and one of the main messages of the story, is that these heroes have essentially created a society full of bystanders, right? A society with the mentality that if anything goes wrong, if anything happens, if anything is bad at all, a hero will come in and save them, right? But what if a hero doesn't come in and save them? People are completely dependent on these heroes. And, there's heroes everywhere you look. Everywhere you look is a hero. There's heroes constantly patrolling the street. Everyone wants to be a hero. And why would I need to be a good person? Why would I need to go out of my way to help somebody? Why would I need to do the right thing when there are so many superheroes everywhere that will be able to help somebody in need, right? That's not my job. That's the heroes' jobs. And this is kind of the overall message of My Hero Academia that I gathered, right? Is that this dependency on heroes has created a society of bystanders. And along with that, even the heroes have created a dependency on one man, and that is All Might, right? All Might in this story basically single-handedly takes care of all of the crime. He, by himself, brings down the crime rate. And this creates a sort of generation of lazy heroes. Heroes that are more like celebrities than, heroes, right? To be a top hero, it's not about, your courage or your bravery or your determination or, how many people you save. It's about popularity and how big your agency is and how many followers you have, and is really more of a celebrity kind of thing rather than being a superhero because the crime rate is so low. And this is kind of the same sort of theme and message of, The Boys, not taken to as extreme of an extent as The Boys in MHA, but it kind of overlaps. And we see this society, and even throughout the entire series, where being a superhero is about popularity and marketability. Whenever they're, training or doing any of their, hero activities, always the mindset in their training is, oh, what's the marketability of this, right? Oh, new super move, and how marketable is it, and blah, 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 right? It's all about popularity and marketability, and not about saving people. And that's kind of the point that a lot of these villains are making in this story, right? Villains like Stain. This was kind of the whole premise of Stain, is these sham heroes, these fake heroes, and that All Might is the only true hero. And because of this dependence on one man, when he is incapable of protecting the people, protecting the peace, this one man who has essentially been, like Atlas, right, holding up all of society, and just his presence brings down crime. When he is incapable of protecting people, society falls apart because they're so dependent on this one person. And this gives, the villains their chance to strike and become more aggressive. With all that being said, having midoriya just kind of take All Might's place and then doing sort of the same things that All Might was doing kind of defeats the purpose of the past, 400 fucking chapters that this series was setting forward, right? Basically just restarting the cycle. The whole point that I think this series was trying to portray is that you should not rely on others to be heroes, as well as you should not put all of your burdens on one man or a group of people. That instead, it is up to every single individual to become a hero, right? To be a good person. And it is up to every person to do the right thing. That's why parts like All Might saying, now it's your turn, or towards the end of the last couple of chapters, Midoriya says, this is the story of how we became the greatest heroes. The whole point that the story is trying to make is that you should not be a bystander, that you should be the difference you want to see in the world, and that we shouldn't rely on a small group of people or one man in order to be heroes. We shouldn't rely on a few people to be good people and do the right thing. That instead, all of us collectively as a society should be good people, and we should all do the right thing. And I feel like the point of this ending and what it was kind of trying to say is that this is sort of a breaking of a cycle, right? This is sort of a new beginning where people won't be just left behind and been like, hey, that's not my problem. A hero should take care of that, right? That instead, everybody is going to be their own hero. Everybody is going to be my hero. And I think that is the overall message that the author is trying to portray here. And I feel like people who really are really fucking about this ending, really mad about this ending, right? Kind of just missed all of that and ignored all of that. And I feel like a lot of people are just kind of haven't even been paying attention to the My Hero series as well, and just want to bandwagon and jump on this as well, just because, it's the thing to do, right? Another thing that I feel like people are complaining about is Midoriya got nothing from basically saving the world. He saved the world. He didn't get a statue or really any recognition. He lost his quirks, took the big L's. He peaked in high school. He didn't get the girl in the end, and all of his friends abandoned him or whatever the fuck, right? I'll get to some of that in a second, but I feel like the people who are complaining about this shit, this is just stereotypical monkey anime brain rot, where it's just they expect that the hero just needs to get everything that they want in the end, and they're the coolest guy ever, and everybody hops on their dick, and yeah, I watched Solo Leveling, how could you tell, right? Midoriya essentially basically saved the world, if not at least Japan, by beating Shigaraki, and I guess technically Bakugo beat All For One, but who gives a shit, by beating the big bads, right? He basically saved the world, or at minimum Japan, and got almost nothing from this, right? And even lost stuff from this. And I think what the author was going for here was kind of a bittersweet ending. There is definitely a better way to write this, and not a perfect ending by any means. But overall, I guess him losing his quirks, is what people are mad about, and him going back to being quirkless. Overall, I thought it was fine. I felt like the execution, everything was good. It's not like this came out of the blue, and this was only in the last 10 chapters that this became a fucking issue. They mention it 100 chapters prior to the very end of the series, and personally, I think it was fine. Okay, However, I feel like the execution, or at least just the epilogue, was a bit sloppily done, and I felt like could have been better. But I think what the author was trying to go here for, it was more like a bittersweet ending, right? He wanted it to be bittersweet. He didn't want it to be all sunshine and rainbows, everyone lives happily ever after, and Deku becomes the coolest guy ever. I understand that. And personally, I don't usually like everyone lives happily ever after endings, right? I like the bittersweet endings. I like a little bit of salt and vinegar with my ending. But I feel like not getting that recognition and not really getting anything out of this, even losing stuff from this, and is important for another theme of the series, and that is that the point of being a hero is not about fame, it's not about glory, or money, or a fucking statue, or even your legacy, right? The point of being a hero, and what it should be, is saving lives and doing the right thing. And that was kind of the whole point of Stain's movement, and Stain as a character, is that heroes have lost sight of why they become heroes, right? That people are becoming heroes just for fame and glory and to be, remembered as idols, right? They're not doing it to be real heroes. They're not doing it to help people. They're not doing it for selfless needs. And if Midoriya were to just beat up Shigaraki and then, get the girl in the end, or the guy, whichever one he's into, there's options, and then, be praised as the coolest guy ever and blah, 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 then get a fucking statue and become the top hero and all that shit, right? If that were to happen, then this would kind of just prove Stain's point. This would kind of once again be, like I said with the previous thing, with him taking All Might's place, is that this would just continue the cycle. This would just make everything happen again. But instead, Midoriya loses his quirk. He loses all of his power, and he essentially loses everything he had. But he doesn't care, right? He doesn't care that he lost his quirk. He doesn't care that he lost all this stuff. He doesn't care that he didn't get a fucking statue, right? He doesn't care that he didn't get the recognition. It doesn't matter. Because what this shows, and what this proves, is that Midoriya was a real hero. Midoriya was a hero not because he wanted fame, not because he wanted glory, or anything like that, but because he wanted to save people. And that is what the author was trying to show, is that Midoriya was a true hero all along. Now, of course, I don't want to just sit here and glaze MHA, because I definitely don't think the ending was perfect, and I do have certainly my own complaints about it, and there are some things that I wish were done a little bit better, and it was really just that last final chapter that I think was the issue, and probably was the issue for a lot of people, because I do think that was kind of poorly written, and I think the author was just like, I don't give a shit anymore, I'm done, I'm bored of this, I just want to fucking move on to the next thing, and was just like, write some bullshit really quick, throw it aside, and then publish that shit, right? And I think the people who are complaining that, Midoriya lost his quirks and took an L and peaked in high school, blah, 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 kind of missed the point of the overall theme of the series. But some things that I really don't like, that I feel like kind of contradict some of the messaging and the themes of the story, is, one, he loses contact with his friends, which everyone agrees that's an L, and that just is so fucking stupid and doesn't make sense with all of the prior shit that has happened before. And especially, it especially contradicts that, one part, when Midoriya leaves UA High School, right? He leaves UA High School and he tells everybody the situation by slipping the notes under everyone's doors, blah, 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 and kind of just sort of runs off, and he's like, oh, I'm all edgy and cool now. And the whole class kind of just agrees to track him down and sort of have this, intervention. It's around chapter 320, I believe. And the whole point of that scene is I think it's 2 or 3 chapters. That's literally just the whole class having an intervention with this motherfucker and telling them how much he means to them, right? Each one of them goes around pretty much and says, oh, you're so awesome and cool and how much you mean to me and you did this for me and that and blah, 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 blah. And one of them even says, it wasn't your powers that made you awesome, right? Which, if the class cared for him so much, especially since, despite his powers and who he is and stuff like that, if the class cared for him so much to do all of this together, right, then why the fuck this is just El Bozo and they just fucking run off and, don't have contact with him for 8 years? What? I feel like this makes no sense. They could at least give him, there's a lot of stuff that don't even require quirks. Even if he can't help right on the front lines, there's the call agencies and stuff like that. They can still be friends. And on top of that, he never even ended up being with the main love interest that they were setting up throughout the entire fucking 400 chapters, being Bakugo, right? Which makes absolutely no sense. Just because you're quirkless doesn't mean you can't be in a relationship or be married to, someone with a quirk or a top superhero or whatever, right? This final chapter really makes it seem like, people only like you for your talents and your abilities. And the moment that you fall off or lose these talents and abilities, that all your friends are just going to abandon you. They don't like you anymore. They don't fuck with you. They're gone, right? You are a thing of the past, and you're a has-been. That nobody wants to be with you anymore, and they're not your friends anymore the moment that you fall off, right? And I feel like this is not the message that the author was trying to say throughout this entire series. It's just I don't know, which I guess you could say, yeah, they're busy and stuff like that, and they still remembered Midoriya, and they still cared for him and stuff like that, so they sent him the super suit, and then he just I assume after 8 years of flipping burgers and being a teacher or whatever the fuck, scraping gum off the bottom of desks, right? After 8 years of that shit, he puts the super suit on, and now he can go be part of the team again, right? Yay, happy ending. So it's not all just sad. And that's the part a lot of people are throwing out the window, but I think it's stupid for a multitude of reasons, right? But the suit, I think, is just like a gesture that it's like, oh, they still care, and they still, like, care for him and think about him and blah, blah, blah. And if they ever want to do, like, I don't know, if they ever wanted to do, like, sort of like, I guess, a My Hero Academia Shippuden, like a time skip thing, maybe following a different protagonist in the same universe, and the old cast of Class 1A is now all grown up and you know, full adult superheroes and all that, then I guess, like, Midoriya still has the suit and stuff. And they also imply that his One For All ability can also come back at pretty much any time, because he's like, oh, I still feel the embers inside of me, which is like, whatever. And another thing is, I feel like All Might still technically has One For All. I'm pretty sure, like, it didn't go anywhere. I feel like All Might could just give him another one of his pubes, and he could eat it again, and then it's back. Or, you know, maybe give it to somebody else. I don't know. But it's just, there's so many things that I don't like about just this final chapter, which I think all the previous stuff is fine. I think him losing his quirk is fine, right? But I think, one, the super suit is just a Pandora's box that will probably never be addressed, especially if I'm just going to call it NHA Shippuden, is never made, right? This is the whole theme of Incredibles, and if this super suit that is supposed to give him, I'm assuming, similar abilities to One For All, you know, super speed and agility and strength and all of that, right? This suit is inevitably going to be mass-produced, and then once again, Midoriya is just a normal fucking guy. I mean, I guess he's, like, more determined and courageous and all that shit, but I feel like that's not satisfying. That isn't satisfying to just hand him a suit that's just going to be mass-produced in a couple years. And I guess it's supposed to be, like, kind of a happy ending, because it's like, oh, he still gets to be a superhero, because he gets to wear this suit that literally anyone could wear. Like, Bakugo could wear this, and it would just be 10 times better on him than on Midoriya, because not only does he have all this super strength and shit, but he also has the explosions too, and Midoriya just has the super strength and shit. So it's just like, I feel like it doesn't do anything for me. You know what I mean? Because in a little while, it's going to be like The Incredibles, where, you know, everybody would just have these super suits that give them extra speed and strength and whatnot. On top of that, they mention multiple times throughout the manga that, you know, quirks every generation are getting stronger and getting more powerful, and there's less people who are becoming quirkless and all this stuff. So I feel like Midoriya still would never catch up, right? This doesn't really solve anything. I feel like it's just like a I don't know, thank you card, I guess. It's just like, it's a nothing burger. He's a fucking trial test run for this shit that Bakugo's trying to pawn off to the military, right? But personally, this is a personal thing of mine, is that I say you should not complain about an ending or a writing choice or anything like that unless you could do something better, which personally, I think I can. So if I were able to write this and basically critique and change this, it would just be this final chapter. Everything else is fine. But what I would do if basically I was in the writer's room and I just took the pen from the MHA author, just stuffed him in a fucking locker and said, I'm writing this shit now, bitch. I'm not letting you cook. You fuck this up. So instead of being a bozo for 8 years and then getting a super suit that is just going to be mass-produced in a couple of years, making him once again a bozo and having him, you know, flipping burgers again, what I would have had written is Midoriya still loses his quirk. You know, everything happens up until that final chapter where they do the epilogue, 8-year time skip, right? Everything happens exactly the same. He loses his quirk, and now he's a quirkless, worthless retard, right? What I would have had written is, instead of basically just like, oh, I'm just going to flip burgers and become a teacher or whatever, right? Instead, he still continues to be a hero despite not having a quirk, right? And in learning to fight, you know, training under like someone like Aizawa or something, learning to fight in hand-to-hand combat, as well as using Aizawa's binding scarf, like Shinso does, right? Basically being a quirkless hero. And despite not having a quirk, he still manages to keep up and, you know, uses his determination and bravery and intelligence and all these things that he used prior in the series when he wasn't using his quirk because he couldn't control One For All, right? Basically using that to the max and learning to master, you know, being essentially a quirkless hero. And I feel like him going down this route of basically, let's say, becoming Batman, essentially, I feel like would satisfy one of the themes that was never really, you know, satisfied, right? And that is that anyone could become a hero, despite their circumstances, right? Because I feel like that wasn't really satisfied, because it's like, oh, he just was really, really fucking lucky that this one guy with the most powerful fucking quirk ever, it just happens to be able to be easily transferred from person to person, and he was just lucky enough that it's like he was kind of caught in a moment where it's like, oh, either I'm going to have to make you sign an NDA, or I'm going to have to kill you, or I'm going to have to give you my quirk, and this one seems kind of like the easiest, because I was already going to do this to somebody eventually. Like, it was kind of like one of those scenarios, and he got extremely fucking lucky that All Might was in that one location at that one period of time where he really needed to fucking do this thing, right? That is kind of it, right? And I feel like it wasn't really satisfied where it's like, oh, anyone with enough determination and grit can become a hero. Because it's just like, yes, anyone can if you're really fucking lucky and All Might lets you taste his super comp. But instead having him, use One for All, him doing, all the stuff throughout the series, and then he loses it, yet he still learns to fight and learns to become a hero without One for All, shows that he didn't need One for All to begin with. That he never actually needed One for All. And that the whole time he was a hero, not because he had immense power from One for All, but he was a hero because of who he was. He was a hero because of his grit, he was a hero because of his determination, and he was a hero because of his bravery, right? He was a hero because of these things, not because of the power that was given to him, not because people are just born with powers, but you are a hero because of who you are. And I think if you made it where he spent the remainder of his time at UA learning to fight, being quirkless, like Aizawa, now I know Aizawa isn't quirkless, but fighting in the same kind of manner as him, and being able to work around being quirkless and still being able to help people and keep up with these other people with superpowers, and then sort of becoming a pro hero and becoming a icon and a inspiration for other people with, no quirks, or people who have, very weak or minor quirks, right? I think this would have been a much better ending and kind of satisfied all the other previous themes that were, set prior. And then, he graduates from UA, they do all of that stuff, and then he starts like a hero agency or something with like Uraraka and Bakugo and Tenya and I don't know, fucking Sarah or some shit, right? And then, it's just like, and, they become like the greatest heroes of all time and the greatest hero team, and they're so cool and awesome, and then Uraraka goes, I love you, Izuku, and then Bakugo fucking crashes through the wall and appears out of nowhere like the fucking Kool-Aid man and goes, too bad, Deku's mine, and then he pins him down to the fucking ground, and then Midoriya goes, no, Tacho, don't start inside of me, you make me fat, brothers, and then Bakugo goes, and then Tenya's dick is like a piston, and he's just going, oh my goodness gracious. And then they all live happily ever after, right? That would have been the perfect ending. And everyone would have been happy. No one would have complained. Nobody would be making memes about him flipping burgers. And the thing is I never would have known that MHA would have ended because I wouldn't have been hearing about how bad the ending was. But hey, in all seriousness, I think that a lot of people complaining was more just, I think it's more just bandwagoning. I don't think the ending was as bad as it was. And I feel like whenever anything ends, people always fucking complain. Even if the ending wasn't that bad, and then in retrospect, 5-10 years later, some retard, some asshole, right, comes in and says, I actually kind of like the ending to that. And then, once again, the cycle continues. And a bunch of other morons come in and go and start regurgitating the same opinion that one guy said, and then now everyone likes the ending. And I'm telling you, in 5-10 years, people are going to like the ending to My Hero Academia. Because that's how the fucking world works. And I've seen it happen a million times where something just ends, something just happens, and then people sit there and complain and says, that was stupid and dumb. I don't think it is very, very rare. I'm not going to say it's never happened, but it's very, very, very rare that people go in and that an ending happens, and then people go, I like that ending. That was satisfying. That was a good ending, and it wrapped the story nicely. Very few times that happens. Usually people bitch, whine, and complain. Everybody bitches, whines, and complains. And then give it a bit of time, everyone forgets about it, and then someone comes in later and gives an opinion about how much they like it and how good it was, and then everybody comes back to that and goes, you know what, I like this guy, I'm going to regurgitate the same opinion, and then the cycle continues. A lot of this overall slander in general is kind of just not coming from a point of critique, but more just coming from a point of, complaining, right? Because I feel like people don't want to critique it. They don't want to think of, oh, this would have been better, blah, 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 or even think of really what the message of the story is trying to convey. And I feel like MHA is one of those few shonens that really have a message to the story. Let's be honest, a lot of these ones, like Dragon Ball or Naruto, don't really have a message, or if they kind of forget about it, don't come at me. Don't even get me started on Naruto. You can be anything you want as long as you put your mind to it. My fucking ass. That guy was literally born with a unnatural superpower fucking demon built into him. Fucking son of royalty and a descendant of God. I don't want to fucking hear that shit, right? Come at me with that shit, I'm blocking you, okay? But I feel like whenever I see a criticism of MHA, it's not a real criticism. It's the same fucking regurgitated garbage. And that's the only reason I even read it. That's the reason I fucking tortured myself this weekend reading all of it in one sitting, pretty much. I don't even fucking like MHA. I never fucked with it. But just because I've seen it so many times where I'm like, people are regurgitating the same fucking things too goddamn much. When I hear somebody say the same opinions too many damn times, different people on the internet, I think something's wrong, something's off. I'm gonna go check this out myself. But anyway, that's basically all I have to say. I really got nothing more to say about this. Ending's alright. I don't fucking know. I don't give a shit. Like I said, a lot of this regurgitation really seems to surround, anime circles, and this is why I fucking hate anime fans, and always in person, I watch a lot of anime. Most of what I watch is anime. I read manga as well. I would not be caught dead. I would not be caught fucking dead. I would not be caught anywhere outside of my home saying that I watch anime, saying that I read manga, saying I'm anything associated with that shit, right? If you went up to me in the street and said, hey man, you watch anime? And I'm sitting there in a fucking hentai hoodie and a Naruto shirt with like, I don't know, fucking JoJo's pants and my Dragon Ball socks on, I'm gonna sit there and say, nope, never heard of it. I don't know what you're talking about. Anime, what's that? Is that a new kind of social media? I don't fucking know what you're on about, right? Wouldn't be caught fucking dead in public, because anime fans are the worst kind of human beings, and I hate them, and I wish they'd all die, right? There is a case to be made about genocide, but I'm not going to make that case today. That video is for another day. That one's going to be 2, 3. I can make it 4 hours long. But all I'm going to say is I hear the same fucking shit everywhere I go, the same fucking opinions about MHA, and nobody will say anything fucking different. I'm convinced that half of the people complaining about this ending never even read the manga, aren't even caught up with MHA, probably didn't even watch the fucking anime. They do not give a shit. They just want to fucking regurgitate opinions and seem like they're involved, right? Because I hear the same fucking buzzwords, like if you use peak and mid at all, if you use mid to mean bad, you are a moron, and I hate you, and you should go die. You should jump off a cliff immediately. Mid does not mean bad. It means mid. It means middle. You should be strangled. And it's like every single time, mid and peak, mid and peak. I constantly see mid and peak. If you use mid and peak, you should be shot in the back of the head and thrown in a dumpster. You don't deserve a burial. Thrown straight in the dumpster, right behind in McDonald's where fucking Deku works. Kill yourself. I can't stand it. I can't stand anime fans. But anyway, that's about it. That's about it. I really got nothing more to say. But yeah, peace. Except for if you're an anime fan. You don't deserve peace. You deserve night terrors every single fucking night. You don't deserve to sleep. The FBI should be on your fucking case 24/7. You should be followed home and beaten in the streets. No peace for you. Die.